Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. It was a cold Friday evening in Moscow, the kind of night where the wind sneaks into your coat and lingers on your skin. I had just finished setting the dinner table when I noticed how quiet the apartment had become. Usually, by this time, my husband, Marcus, would be joking around, his deep laugh echoing from the living room as he caught up on sports or music. But tonight was different. There was a kind of stillness that felt too intentional, like the air was holding its breath for something I wasn't prepared for. Marcus, my husband of 3 years, is from Atlanta, Georgia. A tall, kind-hearted man with a smile that could melt the coldest Russian winter. We met during a cultural exchange program, and despite our different worlds, something just clicked. I, a soft-spoken Russian woman raised on traditional values and snowy fairy tales, found myself drawn to his warmth, confidence, and open-hearted nature. We built a love story that felt both unlikely and destined, filled with laughter, learning, and moments that challenged us to grow. But nothing could have prepared me for what he asked me that night. He came into the kitchen quietly, wrapped his arms around me from behind, and kissed my neck like he always does when he wants to share something intimate. I smiled, feeling his heartbeat against my back. Then he whispered something into my ear, something that left me completely speechless. It wasn't something I had ever expected from him, and it made my heart race in a way that confused me. I turned around, searching his eyes for any sign that he was joking. He wasn't. What he asked was bold, honest, and surprisingly tender. It wasn't just about passion, it was about trust, vulnerability, and crossing into a space in our relationship we hadn't explored before. In that moment, I realized how deeply we had come to know each other, not just as husband and wife, but as two souls still discovering what love could mean in its many layers. That night took us somewhere new. Not just in bed, but in our understanding of what it means to truly open up to someone you love. But before I tell you what his request was, I want you to think, how far would you go to keep the spark alive in your relationship? Have you ever been surprised by your partner's deepest desires? Would you be ready to say yes, or would it scare you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's the most unexpected thing your partner has ever asked of you? Or better yet, start a poll. Should I have agreed to his request, or was I right to hesitate? Hit the like button if you believe love is about discovery, and don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happened next. I looked at Marcus, trying to steady my breathing, my fingers still wrapped around the edge of the kitchen counter. His eyes were soft, but there was a fire behind them, something he wasn't hiding. I knew that look, he was serious. Whatever he had just asked me, it wasn't a passing thought. It was something he'd been carrying for a while, maybe even afraid to bring up until now. That realization made me feel two things at once, nervousness and curiosity. We stood there for a few quiet seconds, the clock ticking behind us louder than usual. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, like he always does when he senses I'm thinking too much. "You don't have to answer right away," he said gently, his voice calm but full of meaning. "I just wanted to be honest with you." Honesty. That was one of the things I loved most about him. Marcus never played games. From the moment we met, he was open, expressive, and direct. I remember the first time he came to my parents' house in St. Petersburg. He brought flowers for my mother, tried to speak a few Russian words, and danced with me in the kitchen while my father pretended not to smile. He wasn't just charming, he was real. And in return, I gave him all of me. So why did this request shake me so much? It wasn't that I was against what he said. It was that I wasn't expecting it. We've always had a strong physical connection, passionate but respectful, filled with small gestures, his warm hands on my back, the way he whispers Russian phrases he barely knows, just to see me laugh. But this felt different. It felt like we were standing at the edge of a new chapter, one that could either bring us closer or make us question what we thought we already understood. I nodded slowly, unsure of what I was agreeing to. Maybe it was the moment. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, with hope more than desire. I didn't give an answer, not yet. But I didn't walk away either. And in that silence, we both understood something had shifted between us. Before I share what came next, I want to know, do you think long-term couples should always say yes to new experiences, or are there limits in love? Drop your thoughts in the comments, or start a conversation with others watching this. Your voice matters in this story. That night, I couldn't sleep. Marcus was lying beside me, his breathing deep and even, but I could tell he wasn't fully asleep either. We both stayed silent, tangled together under the warm blanket, but our thoughts were loud. I kept replaying his words in my mind, wondering why he'd kept this desire to himself for so long, and what it really meant for us. He had always been adventurous, and I knew he valued honesty in our relationship, but this felt like more than just a new idea, it felt personal. Almost like a test of how well I truly understood him. The next morning, the quiet continued. We moved around the apartment in a soft rhythm, coffee brewing, toast popping up, snow still falling outside. I glanced at him as he scrolled through his phone, looking calm on the surface. But when our eyes met, I saw it again. That same look from last night. He wasn't backing down. He wasn't pressuring me, but he wasn't taking it back either. To distract myself, I went out to meet my friend Alina. We sat in our usual spot at the cafe near the university. I didn't plan to bring it up, but after 10 minutes of awkward small talk, I found myself blurting it out, well, the lighter version of it. Her eyes widened, and she leaned in. Wow. That's different. But kind of exciting, she said, sipping her tea. Do you think you're scared because it's unfamiliar, or because it makes you feel something new? Her question stayed with me all day. Because it did make me feel something new, something I hadn't expected to feel after 3 years of marriage. It wasn't just about the request. It was about the way he had trusted me with it. It stirred something in me, a sense of curiosity mixed with a strange kind of thrill. Could love really grow when you step out of your comfort zone? Or was that the moment it all starts to fall apart? Later that evening, Marcus and I cooked dinner together like we always do on Sundays. It felt normal, almost too normal. He hummed to the old-school R&B playlist playing in the background, stealing glances at me, waiting for me to bring it up. But I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't ready. I needed more time. Or maybe I needed to know if this would change how we saw each other forever. What do you think? Should love have boundaries, or is trust about going beyond them together? Have you ever been asked something in a relationship that made you question everything you thought you knew? Drop your answers in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because the next chapter, it gets even more unexpected. The snow kept falling like the city itself was holding its breath. That night, the tension between us wasn't angry, it was quiet, thick, and alive in the way our fingers almost touched, then pulled back. I caught Marcus looking at me again while we sat on the couch watching a movie we both weren't really watching. His arm was around me, his body close, but there was a distance between us neither of us wanted to name out loud. Every glance felt heavier now. Every silence longer. I knew he was waiting for me to say something, anything. And I wanted to, but my thoughts were tangled. His request wasn't something I could just shrug off. It had layers, emotional, intimate, personal. It wasn't just about what happened in bed. It was about how deeply we trusted each other, how far we were willing to go to keep our marriage not just alive, but evolving. And maybe, in his eyes, this was a natural next step. I excused myself and walked to the bedroom. I didn't close the door. I sat on the edge of the bed, running my fingers along the soft blanket, thinking of how far we'd come. From strangers in a foreign city to husband and wife, learning each other's languages in every sense. And now here we were, standing at an invisible crossroad. Marcus followed me after a few minutes. He didn't say anything right away. He just stood in the doorway, watching me, waiting. The snow lit his silhouette from behind like something out of a dream. He finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "I never wanted to make you uncomfortable. I just didn't want to keep hiding what I really feel. That's all." He paused, his eyes soft. "Whatever you decide, I'll still love you. That doesn't change." Something about those words made my heart ache and flutter at the same time. It would have been easier if he had pushed, if he had demanded. But the fact that he didn't, that he gave me the choice, made it harder somehow. And that's where the moment hung, between decision and doubt, between fear and something we hadn't even named yet. I looked at him, finally ready to speak. But before I could, a knock echoed at the front door. Who would be visiting us in the middle of a snowy night? Let me know in the comments, what do you think is going to happen next? Was the knock just a coincidence, or is it connected to everything building between us? Stay tuned. This is the moment everything starts to shift. The knock at the door echoed again, louder this time, cutting through the silence like a crack of thunder. I froze, still sitting on the edge of the bed, while Marcus turned slowly toward the hallway. We weren't expecting anyone. It was late. The snow outside had covered the streets, and the whole city felt asleep. My heart pounded as I rose to my feet, unsure if I was more afraid of what was on the other side of that door, or what was about to change inside our home. Marcus gave me a glance before stepping toward the front. I followed him quietly, barefoot on the wooden floor, every step filled with tension. When he opened the door, we were both surprised to see a woman standing there, wrapped in a heavy coat, snow in her hair. She looked exhausted, but there was something familiar about her face. I stared at her, confused, until Marcus whispered under his breath, "Alyssa?" He didn't even look back at me. The name hit me like a slap. He hadn't mentioned her in years. Alyssa, his ex from college. The one he said was complicated and in the past. I never pressed for details. He always made it clear that what we had was different, stronger. But now she was here, on our doorstep, looking like she carried a storm with her. Alyssa stepped in without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes quickly scanned the room, then landed on me. She offered a short, unreadable smile before turning back to Marcus. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I wouldn't have come if it wasn't serious." Her voice cracked slightly. "Can we talk? Alone?" The air in the room shifted. I looked at Marcus. He was stunned, caught off guard, torn between the past standing in front of him and the present standing beside him. And I couldn't tell if I was more hurt by her being here, or by the fact that part of him still hadn't let her go. "I think I deserve to hear whatever this is too," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Alyssa looked at me again, this time with a touch of regret. "You do," she admitted. "But what I have to say might change everything. And it's not just about him. It's about you too." I didn't know what to expect, but the way she said it, it felt personal. Deep. Like a secret buried long before I ever met Marcus. And suddenly, the question that had been haunting me all week, about trust, desires, and the lines between comfort and change, felt like just the surface of something much deeper. What do you think Alyssa's secret is? How do you think it's connected to Marcus's sudden request? Could it all be tied together in a way no one expected? Share your thoughts in the comments. This story is far from over. Alyssa stood in the middle of our living room, shaking off the cold but holding tight to something invisible, something heavy. Marcus finally stepped aside, giving her space, but his eyes kept darting between us. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice low but firm. She looked directly at me, not flinching. "It's about Marcus," she said, "but it's also about something he never told you." Something I only found out a few weeks ago. Marcus's jaw clenched. Alyssa, don't, no, she cut in. You owe her the truth. I held my breath. She took a slow step closer. Before you two met, Marcus and I tried again. Just once. It was a mistake. We both knew it. But something happened that night. And now I have a child. He's 4 years old. The room spun for a second. I looked at Marcus. He wasn't denying it. Just standing there, frozen. My heart dropped. But that's not why I'm here, Alyssa continued quickly. I'm not asking for anything. I've raised him on my own. But lately, he's been asking about his father. And I didn't know what to do. I thought you deserved to know. My world felt like it cracked open. The request Marcus made days ago, the one that had shaken me, it suddenly made more sense. It wasn't just about us. He was preparing me, in his own way, for a new truth. For another life he'd hidden. And still, through all the shock, part of me saw the guilt in his eyes. Not because of the past, but because he hadn't found the courage to tell me himself. Silence hung between us. Then I asked, barely above a whisper, why now? Marcus finally spoke. Because I want us to be honest about everything. About what we want. About who we are. I didn't tell you because I was afraid. But I can't keep running from it. I want to do right by him, and by you. Just as I felt the weight of it all start to settle, a knock came again at the door. We all turned. But this time, it wasn't the past waiting outside. It was a small voice. A child's voice. Mama? Alyssa's face went pale. What do you think happens next? Should I forgive Marcus? Can love survive a truth like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments. There's more to come. The little voice outside the door broke something open in all of us. Alyssa turned, stunned, while Marcus slowly walked to the door and opened it fully. A small boy stood there in a red winter coat, snowflakes caught in his eyelashes. His eyes searched for something familiar, and when they landed on Marcus, he tilted his head slightly, curious but not afraid. Marcus knelt down, his voice barely holding together. Hey, buddy, the boy didn't speak. He just looked at him, as if sensing something important without needing words. Alyssa gently guided him in, clearly surprised by his decision to follow her. He insisted, she said, almost apologetically. He saw us from the car. I nodded, watching them, watching him. And slowly, the weight in my chest started to shift. Not disappear. But soften. Later that night, after Alyssa and the boy left, the apartment was quiet again. Marcus sat across from me, his hands folded, waiting for my decision. I stared out the window for a long time, the snow still falling. My heart was torn between what was and what could be. But when I turned to him, I saw not a perfect man, but a man trying to face his past, take responsibility, and still fight for the future we had built together. I don't know how this changes us, I said honestly. But I do know you didn't stop loving me. And I haven't stopped loving you. Tears welled up in his eyes as he reached for my hand. We agreed to take things one step at a time. Marcus wanted to be in his son's life, and I supported that. It would be hard, but real love isn't about avoiding difficulty. It's about choosing each other even when it's not easy. As for his original request, the one that started it all, I finally understood it wasn't about the act itself. It was about trust. Vulnerability. Opening doors, not just between bodies, but between hearts. And slowly, as the weeks passed, we found our rhythm again. Our story wasn't perfect. But it was real. And sometimes, that's enough to begin again. What do you think? did I make the right choice? Would you forgive someone you love if the truth came late but honest? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you'd like to see a sequel where our love gets tested in a whole new way, let me know below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There's always more to explore in love.